Hi everyone, my name is Lori McCarthy. I'm the Executive Director at Herren Wellness, and I'm joined today with Heather Herren and Rhodes Rouse to talk about the theme that we have chosen for today's webinar, which is why wait? And really flipping the narrative from feeling like it is a punishment or there is something wrong to seeking help and treatment for really not feeling well, whether it's substance use, anxiety, depression, coming into a program and really looking at how they can improve their lives. And the common question that we get all the time in all the work that we do is it too soon? Am I calling too soon? The calls that I get from families, the calls that Chris gets from families and Heather, the conversation always is around, have they hit bottom? Is it time? And so in the last couple of years, all of our questions are questioning that narrative, which is just a cultural norm right now. Why do we wait? Why are we waiting? Why do people wait? Why are we waiting till somebody hits rock bottom? And so this is a conversation that we've all been having over the past year and months, and we thought we would bring it to, the audience with the idea that if we can change this narrative, people will be able to access help, or they'll feel comfortable accessing help much sooner. I think with all of the education and awareness and everything that has come from the opioid epidemic with education, that seeing addiction as a chronic disease, like any other chronic disease, why would we be waiting for rock bottom? Mm-hmm. But that is the culture and the conception for everybody, families and individuals, is that you have to get to rock bottom before you seek help. Mm-hmm. And that experience is painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, just hearing what you opened it with, and that term, rock bottom, how dangerous that term has really been. For so long, that's really, I think, how we've all operated to deal with addiction, and as a family member as well. It's so scary, it's so shameful that you do feel so isolated in that fear and shame that you want to pretend and be as normal as you possibly can throughout it. And that's part of the sickness too, right? But I think back to Chris and I being young, 24 years old, just married, playing in the NBA, not really understanding how sick he was, not understanding it, having no idea what we didn't know. And he did a little stint in treatment. I think it was 5 days that he stayed there at 24 years old, for a major opioid addiction that could have killed him. And we thought that was gonna fix it. We thought that was gonna be enough. But at the time, I didn't have the education or the tools, and nor did Chris. And it was, I think, looked upon as, it was punishment to go to treatment. It wasn't looked upon as something that you were taking this courageous step to get help. It was looked upon as something bad, negative, more shame, more guilt. So there wasn't a lot of prompting to want to get the help. It was more like, let's just keep this as under wraps as we can. And then obviously you put in a family, you put in a job that people would dream to have. So you'll keep going as long as you possibly can go to keep that lie, because that was really, that became more important than actually getting help.
But it was culturally, there was no education around it,
No.
especially with opiates. That was a brand new frontier in the
Yeah.
addiction field.
Mhm.
It was prior to opiates, it was alcohol and cocaine.
Mhm.
That came on the scene, and no one had the education or how to treat it. I remember insurance companies would cover only outpatient. And then there was a whole shift in that, really, because of public pressure
Yep.
at the legislative level. And so now we're 15 years later, and by Chris being so public with his story, and then, the anonymous people coming out and people being proud of their recovery, like that in itself has been a whole movement. So we have that going. And so nationally, we have a lot of really good things. But whenever, to this day in 2024, no one knows what to do. And every family member that I talk to that has seen the news in the last 15 years, watched 60 Minutes, understands addiction is a disease. No idea what to do. Lost, alone, isolated, shamed, shameful. So if that's the cultural feeling, then of course the person that is struggling, they're not going to raise their hand unless somebody before them does that. And this idea of why are we waiting? And the younger guests that have come in this past year have really lit up Herren Wellness they've taken recovery and looked at it as an empowering thing. They're thriving, they have their lives ahead of them. They're going to change the world.
Yeah.
They're going to change it to, the 16-year-old that came in here that asked for help. And it's marijuana. So everything is changing for the good, and we have to keep the positive we've got to be the ones to shout out the positive. And it is not shameful to ask for help early. It is preventative, which prevention is a huge thing in the organization. And people experience their own level of, like, this is the end for me, differently. Rhodes, your story is, I don't know that you lost everything.
I didn't, but it's, as Heather was talking, coming from the spouse of someone who struggled, I had this conversation with my wife within the last few days, actually. I said to her, why did you not tell anyone else what we were going through, or what you witnessed that I was going through, or what effect I was having on the family? And she said what you did. She said, because that would make it real.
So true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, I've never actually asked her that question before, because I'm looking back thinking, was she doing that to protect me? Because I had a job, a family, the house, the car, like all this stuff. But it's hard what we put our families through. And boy, looking back, I wish I would have gotten ahead of this 10, 15 years before I did. But I'm so grateful and thankful that I did, sort of accept help or raise my hand to ask for help when I did. Because I think I've been successful in recovery because I've had the support of my wife, my kids, my in-laws, my parents, my friends, co-workers. I don't know that that's there if I let it get so bad that I lose all of that. I don't know that support is encouraging. Maybe that support is not there.
That's such a good point. Yeah. No,
Right,
it's true.
very true. And families themselves are, again, isolated. Is this the end? It's almost like everybody holds their breath, whether you're a spouse, a parent, whether you're a 19-year-old at college. Everybody holds their breath, like, maybe this will change. Maybe I'll feel better. Maybe if I addressed my depression, my anxiety. There's a report just came out from the CDC. It just came out this year, and it's 73% of teenagers, so we're going up to 19, that have some kind of issue with substance use. 73% of them report that anxiety and depression came first.
Mm.
And it's a way that they can regulate themselves. And the good thing, not the good thing, but one of the, probably the only upside of the pandemic was that mental health and emotional well-being has become a really, it's not a taboo topic anymore. And in the younger generation, they have so much on their shoulders and what they've gone through. 9/11, pandemic, growing up in this culture of more, legalization of marijuana, alcohol and drinking, and it's just the culture. So if you struggle with it, or myself, when I realized alcohol, this is not good, I don't like myself drinking, I don't like anything about myself drinking. If I hadn't thought that it was a positive thing to stop drinking, I don't know that I would. Because in the culture, it's why aren't you? What's wrong? It's what's wrong with you? And that plays into people not getting help until there's an event, and most people come to treatment because of, outside influences, forces, and that's okay, that's fine,
Yeah, no, I think it's so cool just seeing here at Herren Wellness, like you had talked about with some of the just this younger generation being inspiring, because you are seeing a shift. I feel like there is a shift that's happened. We've moved the needle, I think, a little bit, where younger people are coming in. We've had young kids come in, younger adolescents come in, even really when the parents aren't quite sure if it's time, where they're really standing up for themselves and saying, I know I want to feel better, and that's okay. And I just think back, I can't help but to think back at just our own experience, what I felt in my 20s, and being married to Chris, and us feeling so alone in it, that I think that really has always been the mission of really all of it. Herren Project, Herren Wellness, Herren Talks, is that feeling that it should be celebrated. Recovery can be celebrated. It doesn't have to feel, you don't have to feel like a bad person. You don't have to feel like you're doing something wrong for doing what is courageous and getting the help that you need.
Right.
And Chris was lucky enough to receive the help from the Mullins, and that was always, I think, the biggest thing for us is, we can look at really when he went into treatment at 24, and if he had stayed, what would the trajectory, what would our life have looked like? That 8 years more, there was a lot of suffering. There was a lot of suffering for Chris, a lot of suffering for our family, and our extended family. Like you had said, what would the support look like had I waited so long? And I think that's the thing. It's not only why wait and getting that early intervention, but realizing how much more of a mountain you need to climb when you don't wait.
So
just how much more severe, how much more losses, how many family members have we helped where they have no relationship with their kids, or they're trying to get back to their own families, and there's just a lot of pain, and it's it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't need to be. We all don't need to suffer like that, and easier said than done. I think we've all been faced, and we've all experienced, just even in here, watching people come in, not everybody does come willingly, and not everybody wants to do the work. But I think in time, if enough time is given,
Yeah.
and you do start feeling better, I think it also matters how the community is receiving them. So if it is a place of joy and kind
Wellness.
of wellness and living life and living in recovery and being proud of recovery, I think that there's a lot more that can be said for that, than doing your treatment time and coming out and pretending it didn't happen.
Well, I think Lori hit on a good point about like when you were considering getting sober, it was how am I going to do this? How am I going to socialize? How am I going to be around people? Who's going to ask me? Why am I not drinking? All of these thoughts that go through our heads, and I certainly had those. Most of what I did involved drinking in some way. Of course, I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol that got very depressing and isolating and all this, but how am I going to have fun without drinking? And it was when I came here that I experienced that for the first time. And I've also experienced that people don't really care that much. Like, a lot of this is in our heads. How am I gonna be at how am I going to go to the Christmas party and not drink the wine? Well, no one, for the most part, cares that I'm not drinking, and also are, knowing what I've been through and my family has been through, are happy that I'm not. It shows strength. It shows it's something that I can be proud of, that it's something that I'm working towards, that is improving my life and my family's life.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was here, I remember when I was a guest at Herren Wellness, one of the first things we did where I had like laughs and fun sober was it was the summertime and we took a trip out to the beach. And I didn't particularly like the beach before that. The beach involved a lot of lugging stuff around for the kids, and we just went out on a day and we played spike ball, and I remember that day coming back in the van thinking, man, that was fun.
Yeah.
And those are the types of experiences that we have here as guests, and that we try and introduce to our guests to say, hey, you know what? Life in sobriety can be great. You can be present and available and be in the moment and not thinking about where else you should be or what else you should be doing.
Right. And at any stage, really, I think that people that suffer from anxiety and depression, like having any mind-altering substance is going to mess with that. There's more education around that, and
It's like I heard someone say recently, I didn't know who I was until I stopped being who I wasn't. That I could identify with, because I remember being asked, what do you, okay, so this is, your intro into recovery, and as you move on to your sort of new life, what do you like to do? What are you passionate about? What are your hobbies? And I was like, I don't know. I got nothing. A lot of those answers have come slowly through recovery because I stopped being who I wasn't. And although I couldn't identify who exactly that person was, it's kind of like now that my mind is clear and the lens is open and I have an open mind to try new things, a lot of this stuff has just happened.
I think that what we've done so well at Herren Wellness is we've really embodied all of the Herren organizations, from prevention to treatment to the first day to the why, and anyone that comes into this program, I think that what we've done really well, first of all, it's a small program, but anybody can come in here at any stage. It doesn't even have to be a substance use issue, and feel really comfortable. Everybody feels really comfortable with each other.
Meeting them where they're
So if it's somebody that has, the proverbial rock bottom, somebody that is older and in retirement age and struggling, somebody that is 19, 16, anybody can come in here and get healthy and feel better and work on themselves. And I think that we have done that really well, and I think that that kind of pours out into our alumni, and I think that's why families are really comfortable calling, because they'll know somebody that went through, and maybe people won't wait.
Yeah, no, it's, I think it goes back to what you said before, with flipping the script and how important that is. That, it's really our perspective that needs to change. And that has changed a little bit, but can even move further along that, the script of it being what it used to look like when you needed to get help, and what that rock bottom needed to look like in order to get help, to a place where no matter what you're dealing with, that there is a support system and there's courage in doing the things that you need to do at any age. I mean, I look at the young people that have come through here, and and Chris says it too. It's amazing. Like, to start the process of recovery and living in recovery in your 20s is amazing and incredible. And what a gift that is. So to give somebody that opportunity to do that, it's just sky's the limit for those people. So instead of it looking as a negative, it's really like taking the time to heal themselves. What an amazing gift that is, that they're giving themselves and their family. Exactly.
Such an advantage. Yeah. I think one of the greatest examples of why wait is about a year ago, we had a guest come in, young girl in her early 20s, and her family had heard about Herren Wellness through some prevention work, and reached out, and she came. And it was really difficult for her at first. It was like people are, and everybody is, and of course she is, concerned with a label, concerned with, I don't know if this is the place for me, I don't know if I belong. And within a couple months, the light comes on, and it's an internal light. It's not our light, it's an internal light. It is the sense of, I like this feeling of me being really present and in control of my life and in my, everything that really recovery gives us. And, fast forward, the family did not miss a recovery support group, did not miss a family meeting. They were so interested and curious about all of what was happening to their family. And they completely embraced this recovery, the word recovery. And in a way that they had it apply to themselves as well. So it's not just their daughter that's in recovery, they're in recovery. And fast forward to, a few months ago, her younger brother is starting college, and he makes a call to his parents that he needs to come home, and he probably needs some help, and he needs to, what about Herren Wellness? And when he got here, and after him settling in and talking to him, I asked him, like, what made you decide? And he said, my sister. I saw my sister feel so much better. And I was so amazed that I knew I really needed help. And I said, I want that. 19 years old, didn't wait. And
beautiful.
It's an amazing family.
That's beautiful. It reminds me too of a lot of the things that are important to us. And what Chris always says is how, recovery is attractive, and her brother was able to see her and see how better she felt. And that's really what prompted not waiting.
Right. That's right.
That's what prompted it.
Yeah.
It's not what we say or a parent says. It's how it does look, and that's why it is so important for how someone in recovery presents, and why it's so important for them to be open about it and honest about it, because then it does pull somebody in.
Really, if people are attracted to recovery, that's everything. That's how
And why it's so important
you are
with how it's
attracted to how you
presented to it.
and if you're attracted to how you feel, which is so much better, that's the focus.
Yeah, I had so many emotions when I first came in. Is this going to work? What a lot of the things I discussed earlier. But what I did know is I was very depressed, and I was sad, and I was down. And after a few days, I remember hitting a point where, I just started to feel a little bit better about myself. Like I was making some good decisions, and I was doing some little things right, and getting some small wins throughout the day. And all of a sudden, like that was the momentum that I needed to say, you know what, I like this guy better than that guy. And so I think I'm gonna keep going with this. And then little by little, over time, like a lot of these small changes that I started to make, I started to gain some pride and like some self-confidence. And you know what, maybe I am proud of the person that I am, and proud of the person that I can be, and the man I can be, the father I can be, the husband I can be, the coworker I can be. All those things started like very basic, but I was able to kind of build on that. And now, like I think you said, like
I'm for someone else now.
And I'm attracted in a way to me, and that's pretty cool.
And other people are attracted to what you have. You know, that's what's so cool too. I think the takeaway from all of this, most importantly, is it's starting the conversation of, it's such a sensitive topic. It's such a personal decision for someone to seek help, and it can be very scary. And someone can feel very alone in that. And I think what we're hopefully trying to convey is that there's a lot of people out there that might not be what your image in your mind is of someone that is at their tail end of an addiction and is at their rock bottom, so to speak. And again, to speak on how that perspective really has hurt people in a lot of ways. Like the perspective of having to wait to a certain point where so much has been lost, how dangerous that has been. And on the flip side of that, what we're trying to, make people aware is that there is hope and there's light earlier on, and so much less suffering.
Right.
So much less suffering because of it. And again, I look at our own experiences and look at my own experience with watching a loved one suffer for a very long time. And there's not a day that goes by that I wouldn't think that, we didn't have to go through all that we went through to get to the other side. And in a place like this, or having, someone at the Herren Project be able to be on the other line and be able to get on a Zoom and, watch somebody else that's been suffering, knowing that there's resources out there and that there's people that, there's tools and there's ways to get better, easier than there was before in the past, and we're still moving along, and there's more work to do.
And doing that that's, that should be what is measured as success. Making that call, asking for help, looking for a resource, whether it's you or somebody else. We celebrate all of these milestones, but celebrating, why aren't we celebrating, or we should be celebrating, we celebrate it Wellness Week, every year with the organizations, and I think that it's the broader message that when we go to the gym, we feel better. When we, if you tell anybody, oh, I'm going on this health kick, everyone's so happy. But if you say, I'm going to look at my, I'm going to go build my emotional strength and look at my unhealthy relationship with substances, that should be as yeah, go. That should be the narrative. That should be the norm. And the next really kind of cultural shift that you all or we all have the power to put out is why wait? And what an amazing gift and opportunity for me to be in this place where we can be, or I can even be a small part of that. So it's pretty special.
Very special.